All right. So are you ready to dive into street epistemology today?
I am.
All right. Excellent. Have you ever heard of street epistemology before?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay, cool, cool. So for anyone listening who might not know, it's basically like this conversational tool to help people think about like how they know what they know.
Yeah.
And it's not really about like changing minds. It's more about like helping people reflect, you know?
Right. It's encouraging that self-reflection. Like, how did you arrive at that belief?
Exactly. And so what we're going to be looking at today is this really cool AI analysis of an actual street epistemology conversation that you sent me
Right?
from Anthony Magnabosco's YouTube channel, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And this AI actually scored it against like a checklist, which is so interesting.
Yeah, it's really helpful, I think, to break down and see like how these principles are being used in a real conversation.
Yeah, it gives you like a tangible way to look at it.
Exactly.
So let's get into it. Like, what are the core elements of street epistemology? Like, what makes a conversation actually street epistemology?
Yeah, so there are four key elements or four requirements that every conversation that is classified as street epistemology has to meet.
Okay.
So the first one is diving into how we know stuff.
Okay.
So this is really about looking at the reasons and the evidence behind beliefs. It's not just taking things at face value, but actually having that person who's expressing the belief dig a little deeper and explain, like, why do they believe that? What are the reasons that led them to that belief?
Yeah, I like that. So not necessarily arguing, but just understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. What's the next one?
The next one is asking probing questions.
Okay.
And so you can think about this as like the Socratic method, using questions to guide the conversation and encourage that deeper thinking.
Like the art of asking the right questions,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
That makes sense. What's number 3?
Number 3 is keeping it civil,
Mm.
which is crucial to the whole process. Street epistemology is about a respectful back and forth.
Yeah.
It's not about being right. It's not about winning an argument. It's not a debate.
Yeah, totally.
So that civility is super important.
Okay.
And the final one, and the last one, is helping people to think more critically. And this goes back to that self-reflection that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing your own views on someone or telling them that they're wrong. It's about helping them reflect on their own and coming to their own conclusions.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so those are the 4 pillars of street epistemology, and the AI analyzed and scored Anthony's conversation against each one of these, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So let's start with diving into how we know stuff. So this is all about getting the person to explain their reasoning, right? How did Anthony score on that one?
So Anthony actually received a perfect score for this element.
Wow, okay.
25 out of 25.
Starting off strong, but why? What in the conversation, based on the AI's analysis, what was it about the conversation that gave him that perfect score?
Yeah. So one of the things the AI picked up on was this question Anthony asked, is there a reason why somebody doesn't want them to speak with me?
Yeah.
So he was talking to somebody who believes that certain people shouldn't engage in these types of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so Anthony was like, okay, well, is there a reason why? Like, what is the reasoning behind that? And so instead of just accepting it at face value, he was really digging into it,
Mhm.
trying to get the person to elaborate.
I like that. So getting at the why behind it. Okay, so asking probing questions. Did he nail that one too?
He did. He also got 25 out of 25 points for that.
Okay.
And one of the questions that the AI pulled out was, if the belief isn't true, how would you ever discover it if you weren't willing to answer some of the general respectful questions that I posed to people?
Whoa. That's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a really good one, though, because it's challenging the person to consider, how would they even know if they were wrong
Yeah.
if they're not willing to even look at it? And so it's not about like attacking their belief or saying that they're wrong. It's just getting them to reflect on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so he's 2 for 2. What about keeping it civil? I mean, were there any shouting matches that the AI picked up on?
No shouting matches. He also received a perfect score for this one, 25 out of 25.
Oh, wow.
And the AI specifically noted that he maintained a calm and respectful tone throughout the whole conversation, even when he was dealing with some pushback from the other person.
Yeah, I think that's really impressive because I know, like, I've definitely been in conversations where things get heated, especially when you're talking about beliefs.
Right.
So it sounds like he really demonstrated that element of keeping it civil.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so last one. Helping people to think more critically. Did he ace that one too?
He did. Another perfect score.
Wow, okay.
And the analysis highlighted that he really emphasized encouraging his partner to reflect, encouraging them to question, rather than trying to tell them what to believe.
So 4 for 4, I mean, that is very impressive. So does that mean, like, Anthony is a street epistemology master? Like, is that it? Are we done?
Well, he's definitely got a really strong grasp of the fundamentals.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than just those 4 elements. There
Yeah.
are these other aspects of street epistemology, kind of like these more nuanced things that can actually make the conversation even more effective. Things like building rapport, exploring beliefs collaboratively, acknowledging the uncertainty inherent in knowledge. These are all things that, take it to that next level.
Yeah, so there's more to this than just checking off the boxes on the checklist.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's talk about those extra layers then.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So one of these desirable traits that the AI looks at is called building and maintaining rapport.
Okay.
And this is really about, trying to create a sense of trust and connection with the person that you're talking to.
Yeah, because I imagine if someone feels like you're attacking them, they're going to, like, shut down immediately, and then you can't really have much of a conversation.
Exactly. And the AI actually gave Anthony a partial score for this one.
Oh.
10 out of 15 points.
Okay, so even Anthony doesn't, hit a home run every time.
Yeah.
What was it about the analysis? What did it say about why he only got a partial score?
So it looks like there was a little bit of tension in the conversation.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like the person that Anthony was speaking with was maybe a bit skeptical of the street epistemology approach.
Yeah.
And so that probably made it a bit more difficult to build rapport.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
So even for someone as skilled as Anthony, navigating those, interpersonal dynamics can be a little tricky.
Right.
Okay, cool. So what's another one of these extra credit elements?
So another one that I think is really interesting is called gradient of confidence.
Okay.
And this is about using a scale to assess how confident somebody is in their belief.
Okay, so instead of just saying, like, I believe this, you'd be like, I'm like 80% sure this is true.
Exactly. And then as you're going through the conversation and exploring the belief,
Yeah.
you can revisit that and see, has it changed at all?
I love that.
And it makes it a little bit more tangible.
Yeah, it's less like black and white. Like, you can actually see, like, okay, maybe I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm 60% sure now.
Right, exactly.
So how did Anthony do on this one?
So the AI actually noted that he didn't use this technique in the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm sure, like, he can't use every single technique at every single conversation, but yeah.
Right.
So maybe a point for improvement there.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so what else is on that list of these highly recommended elements?
So another one that comes up a lot is exploring together.
Okay.
And this really highlights the collaborative nature of street epistemology.
Okay.
So it's not about one person grilling another person. It's about treating the conversation as a joint investigation where you're both trying to understand this belief together.
So less like an interrogation, more like a brainstorming session.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did the AI give Anthony points for this one?
So he did receive a partial score on this one, 2 out of 5.
And the AI said that the conversation was more of like a back and forth exchange rather than a truly collaborative exploration.
Okay, so it sounds like even Anthony, who clearly knows his street epistemology, still has room to grow and incorporate some of these more nuanced elements.
Right, and it really shows that, this is an ongoing practice.
Yeah,
You can always be refining and getting better and better.
absolutely. It's a journey.
Yes.
All right, so before we move on, I'm curious, what was Anthony's final score like across the board?
He actually scored a 159 out of 175,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he aced those core elements, but yeah, that's still a really good score.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a lot of things right.
Yeah.
But it is a good reminder that even the best street epistemology practitioners can always learn and grow.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that true for pretty much everything in life?
Exactly. You can always be improving.
Yeah, always learning. Okay, so we've talked about these kind of extra layers of street epistemology.
Yeah.
What else is in this analysis that we should be paying attention to?
So there are a couple other highly recommended elements that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
One is being real and open-minded.
Okay.
So this is about being authentic and genuinely open to different perspectives.
So not just pretending to listen, but actually hey, maybe I'll change my mind about this if you know.
Exactly. And then there's being mindful of others,
Okay.
which emphasizes respecting the well-being of the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with real people here and real feelings.
Yeah, these conversations can get deep.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make someone feel attacked or cornered or anything.
Right.
Okay. What else?
it's okay to say, I don't know.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, this encourages intellectual humility.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that you don't have all the answers. And
Mhm.
sometimes admitting that can actually be more helpful than trying to act like, every.
Absolutely. I think it's so refreshing when someone is willing to say, I don't know, let's figure this out together. Like that creates such a different dynamic than someone who's trying to be like, Mr. Know-it-all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, how did we arrive at this belief?
Okay.
So this is thinking about, the origin of the belief.
So not just what we believe, but how we came to believe it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
So did the AI, analyze Anthony's conversation based on all these elements too?
it did. And he actually did really well in these areas.
Okay.
He got full marks for being real and open-minded, being mindful of others, and it's okay to say, I don't know.
That's great.
So it seems like he's really incorporating those principles into his conversations pretty effectively.
Awesome. But I'm guessing, based on what we talked about, he probably didn't score perfectly on how did we arrive at this belief and exploring together.
Yeah, you're right. On the money, he only received partial scores for those two, which just suggests that, even he has some areas where he could go even deeper.
Yeah.
But it's all part of that learning process.
It's like street epistemology is like a dance. You learn the basic steps first, and then as you get more comfortable, you can start adding your own style and flair.
Exactly. And just like with dancing, practice makes perfect, or at least better.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for someone who's listening to this and thinking like, okay, street epistemology sounds cool, but how do I actually do it? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just start with those core elements we talked about.
Yeah.
Focus on asking open-ended questions. Focus on thought-provoking questions. And really remember to keep it civil and respectful.
Right. It's not about winning an argument. It's about understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you don't have to jump into the most controversial topics right away either. You can practice street epistemology with like friends and family on everyday topics.
Yeah, and the next time you're having a conversation with somebody, just, try ask like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Or what led you to that conclusion?
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
It's like anything else, you start small and you build up your skills over time.
Right.
So to recap for everyone listening, street epistemology is a really powerful tool for examining beliefs, not changing them,
Yes.
encouraging critical thinking and self-reflection. And it's something that you can get better at with practice.
Definitely. And the cool thing is that you can use it for any kind of conversation. So it doesn't have to be, politics or religion. It could be science. It could be personal values.
Yeah.
Anything.
It's really versatile.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and thinking, wow, this is fascinating, I want to learn more, like, where should people go? Are there resources out there that you can point us to?
Yeah, absolutely. There are tons of great resources out there.
Okay.
Books, websites, even online communities where you can connect with other people who are interested in street epistemology. So we'll make sure to include some links in the show notes for everyone.
Perfect. All right. So before we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone listening with something to chew on. Something to really get them thinking about how they can use this in their own lives.
I like it.
So imagine you're having a conversation with someone who holds a belief that you find really puzzling or maybe even a little frustrating.
Okay.
How could you use the principles of street epistemology to engage with them in a way that encourages them to think critically about their belief without getting into like a heated argument?
That's such a good question. And I think one that we all face from time to time.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that street epistemology isn't just about checking off boxes on a checklist.
Yeah.
It's about how we approach these conversations, and especially when we disagree with somebody.
It's about curiosity, respect, and genuine understanding.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up this deep dive into street epistemology.
I agree.
Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your insights today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey and learned something new along the way.
And remember, keep those minds open, those questions flowing, and those conversations going.
What's interesting to me about street epistemology is that it's not just about these big, philosophical debates.
Right.
It's actually a really practical tool that you can use like in everyday conversations.
Absolutely. Like, think about how often we talk past each other, or we get defensive when someone challenges our beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like our go-to is to argue, not to listen.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
I've definitely been there myself plenty of times. But street epistemology gives you like this framework for having more constructive conversations,
Right.
even when you disagree with someone.
Yeah, you're going in with that curiosity.
Yeah.
You want to understand, like, why does this person believe what they believe?
And I think the cool thing is that by asking these open-ended questions,
Yeah.
you're encouraging the other person to do some self-reflection, too.
Right.
They might start to question their own assumptions.
Yeah, it's like you're giving them the tools to be their own critical thinker.
Exactly. And you might even learn something new yourself in the process.
Oh, for sure.
Who knows? Maybe you'll even change your mind about something.
Exactly.
It's all about learning.
It is. It's amazing how much you can learn when you're open to hearing different perspectives.
Yeah.
It challenges your own, and it can really help you see the world in a new way.
I think that's one of the most powerful things about street epistemology is that it's not about like shutting down dialogue.
Right.
It's about creating space for understanding.
It's about connection.
Yeah, connection, exactly.
Yeah.
So to all of you listening out there,
Yes.
we encourage you to give street epistemology a try.
Absolutely.
Start by paying attention to like how you form beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, what are you basing your conclusions on? Are you being critical of the information that you're taking in?
Yeah. Good questions to ask yourself.
Yeah, and then next time you're in a conversation with someone and they're saying something that you don't quite understand, try using some of these techniques that we talked about today.
Exactly.
Ask those open-ended questions. Listen with genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
Resist the urge to jump into argument mode.
Right. Be that active listener.
You might be surprised by what you learn, both about the other person and about yourself.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I think that's a great place to wrap up this deep dive into the world of street epistemology.
Yes, I agree.
We hope you enjoyed exploring this with us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, keep those minds open, those questions flowing, and those conversations going.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.